All right, today we're jumping into something really fascinating, a system for thinking called the Human Codex. And we're going to zoom in on one of its most powerful tools, the Ring of 12. Think of it as a way to create a kind of wise inner counsel for your own mind.
You know that feeling, right? You've got a big decision to make, and all of a sudden, it's like a full-blown civil war breaks out in your head. One part of you is saying, let's do it. Another part is pumping the brakes, and some other voice is off in the corner just panicking about the details.
And we give these voices names, don't we? It's the logical analyst going head-to-head with the big picture dreamer, or the cautious protector trying to shut down the rebellious innovator. When all these voices are just shouting over each other, you get stuck. You get analysis paralysis.
Okay, so get this, because this is the part that kind of flips everything on its head. What if all that internal conflict, all those different voices, isn't a bug in your system? The material we're looking at today says it's not a flaw. It's actually a feature. It's the key to making smarter, whole-minded decisions.
And that is the whole promise of this system. What if you could take that chaotic internal shouting match and actually give it some structure? Turn it from a mob into a council, where every single voice gets a seat at the table and has a really important job to do. So let's start with the problem this whole thing is designed to solve. The source calls it the illusion of unity. And it's this flawed idea that we're supposed to make all our decisions from one single unified perspective. But that's just not how we work. Let's make this super clear with an example. You ask yourself, should I quit my job? And bam, immediately the logical voice pops up. It starts building a spreadsheet in your head, right? All about income, market conditions, runway. But at the exact same time, the emotional voice is asking completely different questions. But will it make you happy? Does it feel right? Both of these voices are telling you something vital. And if you only listen to one, you're probably going to make a big mistake.
And that's where the solution comes in. We have to build a better structure for our thinking. Instead of letting just one or two voices run the show, you deliberately build a council of archetypes, a full team, to guide you to a much more complete answer. And here it is. This is the Ring of 12. Now, the first thing you'll notice is it's a circle. That is so important. This is not a pyramid with a boss at the top. The source makes it crystal clear. This is a round table. Everybody is an equal, and every voice is essential. Real wisdom isn't about one voice winning the argument. It's about the harmony you create between all of them.
So you're probably thinking, okay, but why use myths? Why not just call them the logical one or the creative one? Well, here's the thing. Archetypes aren't just simple labels. They're more like deep, rich vessels, you know? They're packed with thousands of years of human stories, struggles, and wisdom. A single archetype, like a warrior or a sage, contains so much more complexity and nuance than a simple word ever could.
All right, let's make this real. Let's meet a few of the members of this council so you can see how this actually works. We're going to look at just 3 of the 12, but they show the incredible balance the ring is trying to create: logic, empathy, and pure, unadulterated rebellion. So first up, we have Adam. In this system, Adam is the voice of pure reason, structure, and analysis. He's the part of you that wants to take a problem, break it down into its smallest parts, and build a perfectly logical case from the ground up. I mean, you can just hear his voice in this quote, can't you? It's all about precision, analysis, bringing order out of chaos. Adam is the voice that stops us from making crazy, impulsive decisions. He's essential. But if you let him run the show alone, he can totally miss the human side of things. Which is why, as a perfect counterbalance, you have Eve. Eve is the archetype of empathy, of emotional intelligence. She represents what the source calls relational wisdom, that gut feeling you have about how a decision will affect people and relationships. So this is so critical. Eve brings the heart that Adam's pure logic just misses. She asks, how does this feel? What's the impact on the team, on our family? But every archetype has a shadow side, a weakness. And for Eve, that shadow is being so focused on feelings that she might avoid a hard truth just to keep the peace. And that is exactly why she needs Adam's logic to keep her grounded. And then, you've got a completely different kind of energy. This is Prometheus. He is the innovator, the creator, the rebel who is always challenging the way things are. He's the voice that looks at a perfectly good system and asks, yeah, but what if we just burned it down and built something better? Wow, I mean, just listen to that. That is a provocative question.
Prometheus doesn't care about playing it safe. He's about radical change. He's the disruptor that keeps the whole council from getting lazy and comfortable. Of course, that fire can also be really destructive, which is why he desperately needs Adam's structure to build something new, and Eve's empathy to make sure it actually helps people.
Okay, so we've met some of the players. Now for the really practical part. How do you actually use this council? How do you take that internal chaos and turn it into real integrated wisdom?
Well, the process is actually pretty straightforward. First, you just state the problem clearly. Then, and this is the game changer, instead of just letting the usual voices scream, you consciously ask, okay, which archetype do I need to hear from right now? You actively try to access their perspective, apply that unique insight, and then, and this is the most important part, you integrate the lesson. You make that new way of thinking a permanent part of your toolkit.
And that brings us to one last absolutely crucial member of the council, Sophia. Now, her job isn't to add another opinion. Think of her as the wise chairperson of the board. She listens to the debate between Adam, Eve, Prometheus, and all the others. She finds the truth that's hidden in the tension between them, and she synthesizes it all into one wise path forward. She is the final integrated decision.
Now, I gotta say, this whole system goes way deeper than just being a personal productivity tool. The Ring of 12 is just one piece of a much, much bigger philosophical project called the HumanCodex. And it views this kind of balanced thinking as a fundamental promise, a covenant we make with ourselves and with the future.
And this diagram just pulls it all together beautifully. See? The ring, our council, is just one part of this bigger engine. The entire system is designed to connect our memory of the past with our actions in the present, so we can create better possibilities for the future. It's really about building resilience, both for ourselves and for humanity as a whole.
And if you want to know the why behind all of this, the real soul of the project, this quote from the source material just says it all. The creator wasn't trying to build a monument to themselves. It was an act of service, of preservation, to build a toolkit of wisdom so that people in the future would have what they need to thrive, and to know they're part of a long, unbroken chain of human experience.
So, when you boil it all down, what is this thing? It's a promise. The HumanCodex and the Ring of 12 inside it is a commitment to fight against our own blind spots, to deliberately maintain a balance of perspectives, and to make sure that the tools for growth and renewal are always within our reach.
So I'll leave you with a question to think about. The next time you face a tough challenge, just pause for a second and listen. Who's at your inner council table? Is it balanced? Or is there a voice, maybe it's the logical Adam, or the empathetic Eve, or even the rebellious Prometheus that you've been ignoring? And maybe it's time to invite them back.